Evening, everyone. Welcome to Executive Committee. It is September 22nd and 6:33 p.m. I'm Xavier Santiago, your chair. I'm joined by Angel Mesquin, our district manager, and we are now calling the meeting to order at 6:33. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. 2, CB11 members, if you have questions about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address, phone number that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public can, going off the script. All right, we will now take attendance by roll call.
Hello, everyone. When I call your names, please answer present. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Stephanie Arroyo.
Present.
Adem Brija. Jessica Elliott.
Present.
David Giordano.
Present.
John Green.
Here.
Marissa Mack. Nilsa Orama. Xavier Santiago.
Present.
Isaac Scott. Jason Villanueva is excused. Michelle Wilcher Clement.
Present.
You have quorum.
Great, thank you. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Board members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no hands, the agenda is adopted. Okay, the adoption of committee minutes. The committee minutes were distributed by the board office. If there is no objection, please raise your hand if you wish to object. Seeing no hands, the committee minutes are adopted. Announcements. Are there any announcements? Seeing no hands raised. Any informational updates? Jessica Elliott.
Sorry, I just wanted to give one last call for anyone who'd like to participate in the Urban Plan for Public Officials workshop on September 30th, next Friday. There's still a couple spots available and you can reach out to me for more information. Thanks.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, no more informational updates. We can move the slide along, please, Angel.
Also, the announcement that we heard this afternoon, Xavier, that you shared with me about OML.
No, not yet. Everyone was distributed this afternoon. Thank you, Porfirio and Eric. The emergency order was extended through October 22nd of October. So we can remain virtual except for that last week. And I was looking at the calendar, Angel, if everything is able to shift to those Thursday meetings that we discussed and move everything in advance, we should be able to get everyone in virtual. The only question will be full board. We'll have to find a location. So thank you very much, Porfirio and Eric and everyone for conveying the information as soon as possible. Appreciate it. Okay. Okay, discussions and presentations. You'll have to excuse my rapid fire nature right now, but we have our community liaison, who is on a time crunch, but has agreed to be here to discuss our first item, which is committee discussion regarding Office of Manhattan President and Uptown Grand Central. Could you please mute yourself if you're unmuted, just while we pass? Okay, thank you. Uptown Grand Central's joint application to the New York City Regional Economic Development Council for its $10 million in funding to East Harlem via the Downtown Rehabilitation Initiative. I was immediately given a call by Porfirio and I believe it was Amy to have a discussion about it, and they thought we were in a unique position to apply for these resources. So I'll pass it over to Porfirio to kind of explain a little bit more background. But yeah.
Well, thank you. For the record, let me state my name is Porfirio Figueroa. I am the community liaison to CB11 for the Manhattan Borough President's Office. I want to thank the board chair, Xavier Santiago, and district manager, Angel Miscane Archer, for the opportunity to address the CB11 Executive Committee. So we have a wonderful and amazing opportunity to get $10 million for East Harlem specifically. The Manhattan Borough President's Office, and if you'll allow me, I'm going to read a small statement, but I also want to mention that when this opportunity came up, there was a very strong push to bring these funds directly to East Harlem. And as your community liaison, I was involved in that process. So I will read the statement now. The Manhattan Borough President's Office is suggesting the New York State Downtown Revitalization Project would be best served in a community of diversity that could benefit from the planning grants, funding to be considered for transformative CAP projects that have community partners and can leverage corridors of neighborhoods that can be positively impacted or that needed a boost to complete an overall supportive revitalization in development. In tandem with Uptown Grand Central, the Manhattan Borough President's Office proposed the Downtown Rehabilitation Initiative application be submitted to the New York City Regional Economic Development Council for its $10 million in funding to benefit the East Harlem area as an investment that would serve as equity and provide a catalyst for revitalization to a part of our city in need. Now, the preliminary ideas for the funds would maximize the transformative impact of the East Harlem 2nd Avenue Subway and Park Avenue Viaduct projects and allow East Harlem to create a transformative hub that incorporates safe streets, green and functional public spaces, intermodal connections, and local retail, all infused with opportunities to showcase the neighborhood's rich history and culture. Now, these transit investments paralleled with projects that support community health, clean air, and clean sidewalks, and the cultural caretaking and wayfinding that will ensure the history and future of El Barrio would help solidify growth amidst your neighborhood change. The 2nd Avenue Subway is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the East Harlem Downtown Revitalization Initiative and its $10 million grant towards CAP projects to help create positive changes in East Harlem as it moves into the future. Now, ultimately, the final projects are all funded in a community-driven planning process who would weigh in on the vision and specific projects to best serve a strategic investment. The community board's letter of support would go a very long way to showing the New York City Regional Economic Development Council that the strength and merit of the proposal would bring these much needed funds to the East Harlem CB11 community. May I add that when this opportunity came up, there was a very strident move that we felt at the office, this would be the best served community to get this money. I'm opening the floor if you have any questions.
Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention, and very pleased to bring it here before the committee. I think we're all, I can say for myself, I'm personally very aligned with revitalizing that 125th Street corridor and also bridging that gap from the upper and southern part of the district, if you will. Are there any questions from our committee members? Please raise your hands if you do. Okay. I am not seeing any raised hands.
Let me add one more thing, if I may, Chair.
Yep.
So the last part of this application is obviously the support of Community Board 11. From my understanding, we stand a very good chance of being the top percentile for this grant.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Michelle, you had a question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Thank you. It sounds absolutely wonderful. And I was just curious to find out, would this also include artists and different way of artists, not just visual artists, but performance or any type of artist? Would that be included with the project?
Thank you, Michelle. That's a great question. And actually, that was part of the survey that we did yesterday on the 125th Street Viaduct at underneath the station, Metro North. And so, like I said earlier, because it is a community driven, I mean, you would have the opportunity to weigh in on how that distribution of the money would go towards whatever various projects and or initiatives you feel are best serving that corridor. So the answer is yes.
Great question, Michelle. Any other questions? Okay, so part of this discussion is that they're asking for a letter of support to come from our community board with this application. And as you know, the executive committee can act on behalf of the board. There was not enough of a runway, and because our executive committee, given the calendar, was not meeting until after full board. Otherwise, we would have already taken this up and then voted on it on Tuesday. As a result, it had to be presented today and will be ratified next month. So yes, Porfirio.
One last thing in echoing what you're saying, and the state gave us until 4 p.m. tomorrow. So, and it's hence the reason for this evening's, my being here. There is a strident time limit.
Thank you for clarifying. And again, we're in a very much a aircraft carrier runway. So if there are no more questions, I'll entertain a motion to support or offer a letter of support. Yes, Michelle.
I would like to motion for a letter of support for this absolutely beautiful proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Jessica. Sorry. All right, please call the roll.
Jose Altamirano,
Yes.
Stephanie Arroyo,
Yes.
Jessica Elliott.
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome. David Giordano,
Yes.
John Green,
Aye.
Marissa Mack,
Yes.
Marissa. Oh, thank
Yes.
you.
Sorry. Yep.
That's all right. Nelsa,
Yes.
Xavier,
Yes.
Isaac's not here. And Michelle.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Motion passes.
Okay, wonderful. With that, thank you very much, Executive Committee. We will thank you, Porfirio, for being here with us. Although I know you love hanging out with us, you can carry on with your so choose.
I do have to go, but thank you so much. And the last portion of this is prayer. So I'm sending one out there.
Definitely,
And
I'll get
thank you for allowing me to be here.
Absolutely, and we'll get you the letter. Okay, straight away.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye,
Thank
Ned.
Okay, moving things along. Committee discussion regarding testimony expressing concern for externalities of Central Business District tolling program on East Harlem. We had a rather lengthy meeting. I think the majority of the time was spent on the bus stop with the double-decker bus. I forget the name of it. But we did say we would take up and review some of the concerns. Angel, do you want to put that up on the screen, or shall I just go ahead and pass it over to Jose if you're prepared to talk on it, Jose?
Talk about the central business, you went pull up this, the congestion pricing thing, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay.
I thought we passed this at full board. Why are we talking
We
about?
did, because, but we said we would review it and see if there were any additional commentary that was desired to be added.
I don't have any additional.
But it's a second set of eyes is what it is. Because
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. So a little background, we had, obviously, as you know, we had our board meeting, our full board meeting on Tuesday. Yesterday, CB8, our sister board to the south, had theirs. It got very contentious, and they wound up tabling it. So they didn't weigh in on it one way or another, but they did have a very vociferous debate, and a lot of members of the public who were attending were against it, who had registered, is my understanding. So again, having spoken to some of the transportation, their task force this morning, and knowing that we had passed, this was our position, there's a bit of concurrence there, but I wanted to see if any of our members had any additional thoughts that they'd like to place into the draft testimony or not, or commentary. Please raise your hand if you have a question, committee. Okay, Stephanie.
Hi, I just want to make sure that somewhere in the comments, we let it be known that the whole point of New York and the charm of New York is also using public transportation. And with all this talk of raising what we pay for in public transportation, I think it would be best for us to not have this stop. And I just don't know how we would fit this in this letter. But I definitely think that in this letter, we do not need to stop in an area where we have so much traffic. And again, the charm of New York is using public transportation. I mean, I know it's not the greatest for all of us. I can say that for myself, but that is a part of New York. That's the charm of it. So
Are you talking about the bus
Stephanie,
stop?
yeah, you're confusing.
I'm talking about
bus
us
stop.
having, are we talking about the 103rd?
No, we're talking
No,
about
we're not.
congestion.
We're not. We're talking
Okay,
just
so
about.
then I am so sorry. I am falling back. I apologize. That's all I was talking about. Sorry.
And we can opine on that as we discussed at full board to bring that up to EcoDev and issue additional commentary. So that's fine.
Will do. My apologies.
No, don't worry about it. Okay, I think the one thing I would add is that very early on, when I returned back from being abroad and living in London, where a lot of these studies are citing with congestion pricing, that didn't roll out. It rolled out, it landed like a lead balloon. And again, their model is different from New York City's in the sense that they're not abutted by another state like we are. They are onto their own. They have urban sprawl. The main body of water that goes through London is the Thames, and they have changed their public transportation into zones. That if you're on the outside zones and you want to go from zone 6 to 1, you pay an increasing fare to go through all the other zones to get to central London. When I returned, I had individual conversations with both our previous borough president, Gail Brewer, and our current borough president, Mark Levine, and discussed the whole idea of a borough-wide permit with neighborhood permits for overnight parking. So if you reside in, say, Community District 11, possibly having a neighborhood permit that allows you to park overnight, but you are still allowed to traverse in and all throughout the borough of Manhattan without incurring any additional tolling. That way, we're not impacting this particular borough, and then you would still yield access to your free bridges. If you want to take the tri-borough, be my guest, going to still pay that fee. But again, it's there. That was the initial recommendation. A lot of studies have been presented, and I think this. And I thank you, Jose, and your committee for meeting again to address this and bringing it out of committee where it should be. But that is just my brief commentary. But if there is anything else that anyone wants to add, this is the last kind of port a call before it is due tomorrow. Stephanie, your hand is raised still, or is it a new hand? Stephanie? Okay, I'm presuming that is an old hand. She just didn't get to lower it yet. With
Yes,
that,
that was an old hand, sorry.
all right, thank you. If there are no additional questions, I think this will stand as our testimony to be submitted. Angel, the only thing I could say, if there are any places that citation could be included, that would be the only recommendation, but with such a short runway, I don't think we have the time, so. Okay. And we will move along to our final bit of conversation, which is committee discussion regarding the executive declaration relative to open meetings law. Angel, I mean, we had the extension that was just announced. Is there anything you'd like to add on that? Because if we are able to shift the 3 Thursday meetings to earlier Thursdays where we have that one that is open, I think that it would really just be full board unless they extend it further, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the calendar, so
Great.
everyone else is looking at what.
The same thing.
Yeah, bear with me a sec, and I will get that visible. Are you seeing the calendar?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So the October Parks Committee meeting was rescheduled till next week. So it left the date open in October the 6th. So Xavier and I were talking the other day about the possibility of, since we have that vacancy, moving public safety, district needs, and budget and executive a week each. That way we get executive before full board. And given today's news, then every meeting, most of those meetings would be able to be on Zoom, and the only one we need to plan to have in person would be the full board meeting on the 25th. And we tentatively have a space available because we were anticipating being in person in October, so that's still there in dark pencil. So if we move those other dates up, then we don't have to worry about hybriding executive.
Okay. Thank you. Jose, are you able to move to the 6th?
The 6th, I'll tell you right now. So, yeah, it should be fine.
Okay, Stephanie?
Not a problem, it's not a problem on my end.
Well, what your committee district needs would move to the 13th, Thursday, the 13th of October. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that still works, that's not a problem on my end.
Okay, great.
And it would be Zoom because it's the 13th, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, no, that would be perfect, because I don't feel like anyone on my team wants to be in yet, so.
Okay. Thank you. And then I think it'll be content for us to all meet on the 20th. Thank you, Angel.
I do,
Great. Yeah, Jose?
I just feel that, I know it's out of our control, but I still think it's very unfair for us and the community, this month to month, like nonsense. Just want to go on the record and saying this. It's very difficult for us to make our agendas. If I know that I'm going to be in person, I'm not going to have a very big agenda because the reality is I may not even have quorum, and have all these people invited and guests. And I think it's, the way the city and the state are dealing with this, it's really ridiculous. I don't know if it's something we can do, if Adams can extend this every 6 months, because I know it can be extended from the city or from the state. And I really think that we should send something to the borough president, because honestly, like, it kind of limits the way we can work. I'm not going to put a lot of focus on an agenda and know that I may not be able to have it if I don't have quorum and waste people's times,
Yep.
and we're like
I totally agree.
seesaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree. I am inclined, but again, it has to come from, the board. But I would be inclined to, if we stake a position and we can say that we could write a letter, or we would, we could make a motion to say we request the mayor to extend, given the extenuating circumstances and difficulty, as we are volunteers, but fall into that category of public officials, to extend the EO for X amount of time, so that we may be able to function and plan accordingly, because it's causing a lot of difficulty on the staff and on our committee members to be able to function.
Is this something that we can release from executive?
As long as it's ratified by the board in October. If we stake, again, the committee is and we can table it and then discuss it next executive if you want, but I think that executive can act on behalf of the board. Is it urgent or pressing? That depends on your opinion, but it's good to hear your expression that this is very difficult to function, knowing whether or not you're going to be in person or virtual and having to pivot last minute. I get it. Is there anyone else who would like to add some commentary on it? John. And then no.
Thank you, Sadie. It's not just getting people to do presentations before committee meetings, but the thing is that no one knows how it's going to shake out where venues are available. I mean, people still may be a little shy about opening their venues for meetings, for committee meetings. So that may be a problem. That was a problem last fall, and I remember Marlene, Angel, and Carly had one heck of a time trying to get venues.
Yes, I remember that too. Very challenging. Nilsa.
Thank you, Chair. I want to bring another perspective. We have been expected to prepare for in-person meetings at least for a year. With that said, I agree with what Jose is saying, and I want to bring in a different perspective. Today, near the multi-service center, there was a shooting on 118th, 119th, and First Avenue. This is happening repeatedly in our community. To ask us to go back in person when right now the neighborhood is so unsettled and lots of things are going on with the advent of the cold and getting darker earlier and people being afraid of becoming ill or coming back into a large meeting space. I think that we can't afford to avoid the fact that right now our community is very turbulent. And I think that with whatever we say, we should consider that people may not want to come in person just because of that at the present time. That's all I wanted to say, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilsa. Are there any other comments? And thank you. I appreciate the perspective. I do think that we've seen how productive we can be virtual. There is something to be said about in person and face to face. I don't, but I think with the risk and of not having quorum, of not being able to conduct business, and then spinning one another's wheels, it will demoralize people from even participating, and that's not what we desire. We've been able to show a great degree of productivity on functionality at times, and we've only improved on that. So I think we've been given a little reprieve through this month, but I would like us to consider, if we're going to take a position, that we perhaps vocalize it and then vote on a position of what we would request of the mayor. Obviously, Governor Hochul is not going to continue the EO, but and for whatever reason, some speculate it's for political reasons, others say because the pandemic's over. Then why did the mayor extend the EO is the question. I think there's an opportunity to ask for a request. Whether or not it will be recognized is to be determined. So I would ask us to all marinate on it and to bring positions that could be justified through data and facts, and come out of this committee next month rather than doing something hasty. But Isaac, I see your hand up. Welcome.
Thank you. I was just wondering if we know where other CBOs stand on going back in person and virtual, because Nilsa brought up a good point, but that may not be the case in another CBO. So I'm just wondering, like, is there a citywide push to sort of stay virtual, or is this other CBOs looking forward to coming back in person?
Angel, would you be able to opine? I know that I think CB8 is staying virtual and they prefer to do that, but have you heard from any of the others? I know CB1 has been, in person or hybrid. Go on.
I've heard, let me get on this the camera. Yeah, I've heard similar stuff, and to your question, Isaac, we have like a semi-regular conversation among the M citywide, and what I've heard in those conversations is that there's a spectrum of positions that community boards have taken. Like some of them, like Xavier was saying, I think he said 8 or 1, are determined to stay fully virtual, fully remote. Others have been back in person for a while. Others are kind of in the middle. It's like there's no consensus that I've heard from them. And I think my opinion is that people are just having a hard time agreeing on what the best course of action is, right? Like, if we could talk about this for hours, right? Like there's 48 of you guys and a bunch of other boards and all kinds of opinions as to opinions and concerns, logistical concerns, safety concerns, also a lot of people have, we've talked about this a few times, have gotten used to meeting like this, and then other people are sick and tired of meeting like this and just kind of want to get back in person. So it's kind of all over the place, but like a long answer to a short question, there isn't any consensus.
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. It's a good question. What I'll do is I'll reach out to my fellow chairs and confirm with them where I know CB10 and 12, they prefer to stay virtual. 9 is definitely more towards that angle. So our upper Manhattan boards are toward the virtual aspect. But my recommendation at this point is that we're going to have to wait and see. It's not in our control, but I think by next month, I'd like this committee to issue forth a recommendation that can be sent to our elected officials due to the way the law was crafted, and speak to that, speak to the fact that what our committee, the composition of our community board, composition of our community we represent, the pros and cons, weigh it out, just everything from the fact that we have a high amount of seniors with mobility issues, for example, who are actually able to participate more, those that are or those that have immunocompromised systems and therefore are reticent to participate, but they love the virtual, to our own participation and how that it's more difficult to plan if we're going month to month, and that we may have difficulty unless we have a hard stop. And I know we're trying to be productive in this process, but I would recommend put on your thinking caps and we can send a round robin email to the committee and just bullet point your thoughts for next month's meeting. And then we just take a position that we can present to the full body in October. Sound like a plan, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, good. Yep. And let's see right here. All right, next slide, please, Angel. Oh, I see a hand. Nilsa?
Chair, I just want to ask a question because my eyes are poor. The calendar and when we would take this position, I don't know if I misunderstood that it was extended up to October 22nd.
Yes.
So if executive is meeting to craft a position to then what, have the full board vote on it on what day to then send it?
So it would be, so at this point, hold on, I'm pulling up the calendar. We would be meeting, it's just loading, on the 20th, which would become an official position, but we still ratify it, or we vote on it full board on the 25th, which we would be back in person.
Right, but the emergency order is only until October 22nd.
Correct.
So would it not be more more advisable to try to get in our position before the emergency order expires?
I'm, like I said at the beginning, I'm more than pleased if we want to do that right now. Or at least take a position, because we've had the discussion, and entertain a motion to, send a letter requesting for either an extension of the EO or requesting the MBPO to weigh in. But again, the way the law is crafted, it has to come from the mayor of the city or a town. I am not opposed to entertaining a motion that calls for an extension of the EO for the reasons we put on the record during multiple meetings, which include but aren't limited to the fact that that COVID is still out there, it's still present. Some people are trying to say it's over, but we're still seeing an uptick. We're finding it difficult to function month to month with us not being able to plan. It's harder for people to actually schedule, and then will prevent us from making quorum, and therefore taking official positions on behalf of the body and for the constituents we represent. And we can also include the other pros we've discussed over the course of 2 years, which are our public participation, greater attendance, et cetera, and so on. So I'm not opposed to that, but again, I would need someone to take that position in such case.
So Xavier, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to draft a letter to the mayor's office outlining the position of CB11 as discussed tonight and in prior meetings, for the support of consideration of extending the emergency order in light of what was discussed tonight.
Okay. Before, can you hold on?
You might want to craft that a little better than what I said.
Yeah. Just hold on a second.
I'll second.
Okay, I need to, can you, Jessica, can you please take over for a second? The little George, I think, bumped heads with his older brother.
Okay, no problem.
Be right back if you just.
All right, so Nilsa has a motion. Do you want to try condensing it, or should I let everyone else talk first?
Well, I wanted to second the motion.
Okay, well, there's 2 other hands up. We'll go to Michelle and Isaac and just see.
I also wanted to second, so that's
Okay. Michelle?
Wanted a second, but I also wanted to remember to add what Jose had said, to have it not just month to month, but to hopefully have it, I wouldn't necessarily say 6 months, because that might be too much for them. So to say 3 months, so that it's not this a little step, and you just don't know. But so it's a friendly amendment to what Nilsa was saying and what everyone was saying.
Okay. Nelson, do you want to put a time limit on, or a time?
Yes, we can put that time. We can say, at least quarterly, right? Which would be the same that what Michelle is saying, every 3 months. And I just want to make sure that as discussed with the stuff, that we also include about the right now the situation in East Harlem for safety and health reasons. Just because this whole week we can talk about how many shootings there have been in this immediate area.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll review the minutes from this and make sure that all the comments are incorporated in the letter. Is that your motion to support, Nelsa?
Yes.
Okay, and seconded by Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Yes, and there were also shootings in my area in 2 days. Gunshots, just it's gone insane.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. I heard the tail end of that. Have we voted yet?
Not yet.
Okay. You've restated the motion, Jessica?
I will do my best.
It could be as succinct as you want, Jessica. You
All
know
right,
what I'm
so-
trying to say.
Nilsa made a motion to support the committee making a letter to the mayor's office reflecting the comments of our meeting today about the open meetings law. And it
Okay.
was seconded by Michelle.
Okay.
For the
All right.
extension, for the consideration of extension of the emergency order, at least for no less than at least quarterly, because Michelle mentioned like 3 months. So, you
Okay.
know,
A quarterly extension of the,
quarterly extension. Mhm.
okay, and it will cite all of the previous discussion of the pros and cons of why it would be necessary, correct? Okay,
Yes,
all right, thank you. Please call the roll, Angel.
Jose,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Adam's not here, Jessica,
Yes.
David, John,
Aye.
Marissa, Nosa,
yes,
Xavier,
Yes,
Isaac,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
motion carries one.
Sorry, I'm a yes too. I couldn't get to the button. Sorry.
thank you,
Okay,
David.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that, everyone, and we'll get working on that. Okay, great. Next slide. Any new business? Seeing that there are no hands raised. Roll call. And we will officially adjourn at 7:15.
Okay. Jose,
Goodbye.
Stephanie,
Still here.
Adam, Jessica,
Present.
David,
Present.
John,
Out.
Marissa, Nelsa,
present.
Xavier,
Present.
Isaac,
Present.
Jason is excused, and Michelle.
Present.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Yep, have a great evening. I'm gonna go tend